Hi there, welcome to this build of a 40-inch wingspan Keil Kraft Gypsy. Now this is a 1949 design by Bill Dean, and you can see we're cracking on with this, got the fuselage more or less finished, to be honest. Now we're going to get on and we're going to start building the tailplane and the rudder, and it's a free flight design, but I'm actually going to build in a separate rudder with the fin. So I want to have this radio assist because where I fly I need to have a little bit of control to make sure that it stays within a certain area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the tailplane first, and there's no elevator on that, it's just a straight tailplane. So we'll have a look at I'll get it laid out and we'll have a look at the components. Right, well I've got my plans laid out on my balsa building board, and I've got some plastic on top to protect the plans. These are the plans I printed out from AutoZone, and I've got all of the components I need. Just check we've still got everything, and we've got the wingtips here, which are actually two pieces that have been laminated, just glued together. I did these last night because I knew I'd be starting this build today. And I've got the sub fins here. I think they're called sub fins. They go under the tailplane. It's worth sanding off as much as you can the laser printing on these, because if we don't and we leave it on, when we cover these with tissue, it's going to show through. I'm sure it will, if it's a light tissue anyway. Now, the first thing I've got to do is make up the trailing edge for these, and the ribs I just cut into these by about 1/8 of an inch, something like that. So I just need to cut two pieces and cut those slots, which I'm going to do now, and then I will get this all pinned out. One of the things I've noticed with this, which is something else a little bit disappointing, is that the slots that are cut in the ribs are way too big. There's just, you know, they just don't hold the ribs very well. If I'd made these ribs, I think I would have redone them. I mean, it's just very sloppy. So we'll need some big glue. I mean, that one there is actually huge. You can see that movement in that, hopefully, which is really poor for a laser cut kit. There's no excuse. And the same on that side. Where are we? Don't know whether that is in focus. So anyway, I'm going to get this back prepared. I'll get all this pinned out and then we'll start to get this glued up. Right, well I've got this all ready now. I've got my slots cut in this trailing edge. I haven't glued anything, it's all just laid in place. It's worth noting that, I mean, it's ready to glue now, but it's worth noting that with the two central ribs that go in like that, they are designed to be at a certain width so that they support the rudder, or the fin, should I say. This is the R1, the base of the fin. So what we need to do when we glue this is make sure that that is a nice snug fit between those ribs. We obviously need to be careful we don't glue it in, but we want to make sure that these are nice and close together, the correct distance. And we've got another little piece that will go in across here. I think it's thinner than that, yeah, like this 3/32, and that will need to be spaced just so that these sub fins fit in from the underside. So I'll probably do these right at the very end when I've got it off the board and I can slot the fin in from underneath, I think. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get all this glued up and we'll see how it goes. Actually, the other thing worth pointing out is that these central ribs not only need to be spaced correctly using this piece from the base of the ribs, but they need to be vertical, so or at a tangent square to the board, because we want the fin to go in it, but we want it to go nice and vertical. We don't want it cocked over to one side or the other. So I'm just using these square blocks just to hold it nice and square before I glue it. So I've got it square, I've got it spaced, and now I can just glue the back here, and then I'll probably do the leading edge. So just want to get that bit right, because that will make a big difference. Right, I've got this all glued up now, so it's time to get it off the board. Hopefully that gap is right. That looks nice and vertical for the rudder, which is good. So we'll get the pins out. There's quite a lot to come off these tips, so I think what I will do is I will use my David plane to just take that off. Now I think I probably stuck to the paper down here, because I managed to cut the yeah, I have. I managed to cut the plastic when I was just trimming this edge up and making sure it fit. Oh no, that's okay. It has gone through, but it hasn't stuck, which is good. Now, what I will do is I will just get that. Is that? Oh, that's nice and flat. Don't know whether that can be seen like that. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my David plane on these tips. You can see we've got a rib there. I think it's F5, T5, and we need to plane that down, that tip there, to meet the trailing edge and follow the profile of the rib, and the same a little bit here. And then I will take it outside and I will give it a good sand, I think. So, but we might as well get the bulk off with the plane, and if I just put the tip on here, and then the plane won't be catching on the bench. Oh, that's better. So we'll just get that off, because this is quite quite hard balsa, as I keep saying, and so it's not really something that I want to be sanding too much. And we can also do the trailing edge. There we go. So we just take a bit off that trailing edge. There's a profile here, yep, which shows what it should be like. So once I've done this, I need to be really careful not to catch the ribs. I will take it out, as I said, and give it a good sand. It's pretty windy at the moment, so it's a good day for it. Right, I've been planing these trailing edges, and I've done the wingtips, and it occurred to me, or I noticed, that the wingtip here, the actual block on the end, is slightly less than the actual rib itself. The rib sticks proud here, and so what I've done is I've just put a piece of soft 1/16 balsa on there like that, just to make it up to the same profile as the rib, because I suspect the rib is actually right and the tip is just a little bit too short. So like I say, I'm just putting a piece of soft balsa on there, I'm just CAing that, and then I'm just going to file that to get the right profile. Right, well, I've got this fairly well advanced in the sanding. I had to stop because it's raining and blowing a gale outside, but to be honest, it doesn't need much more, just a light over the top, and I've just got the corners of the wingtips to round off. But you can see I've got them more or less in profile now, following the line of the ribs. Hopefully you can see that. I've thinned down the trailing edge, and I've started to bullnose or round off the profile on that leading edge. So there's very little work in this now just to finish sanding it, and I'll probably do that as a result of the overall sanding I do when I come to finish it, or come to cover it, should I say. The sub fins, they weren't a brilliant fit. I had to trim them and alter them a little bit. And also I need to shave some off the top, because they actually stick slightly proud, and they'll be pushing the covering up if I push them in, fit them in, and then and don't do that. So probably just a little bit needs to come off. But I'm pleased with that. It's come out straight. It's a little bit heavier than perhaps I would have liked, but the balsa is quite heavy. So what I'm going to be doing now, I've got the plans which I downloaded or printed from AutoZone for the fin. I'm going to be making that up, but as I think I said earlier, I'm going to be making it with a rudder that I can control with a micro servo. So I'll get this on the building board and we'll start to get this sorted. Okay, so let's take a look at the rudder and fin, or at least we've got the fin at the moment, but we're going to make a rudder. So the two pieces of laser cut is R1 and R2. R2's easy enough at the top, and then we've got R1. This is the piece that fits between the two ribs on the tailplane, and we can see it goes over there and there over the struts on the tailplane. So now we're going to glue that into place like that. I've had to cut myself a separate piece of balsa for this because I'd run out from the kit. There wasn't a piece for that, so that will go on there like that. I've got the leading edge, which is this bit of hardwood here. You can see how hard this balsa is. And now, rather than using a piece of 1/8 square up there, I need to create a rudder here that I can cut out. So I'm going to just notch that 1/8 so it'll fit into there like that. I'm then going to put in a cross piece like that, I think. And then I'm going to bring another piece up like that, and actually another piece across like that. And then what we can do is we can cut it here, cut it there, and we'll have a detachable rudder, and we'll have the fin assembly as a separate unit. So, and I'll just obviously put the 1/8 square across there to make that hole. So I think that's an easy solution, and we'll end up with a decent sized rudder, but not something that's too massive. Right, well, that was a fairly quick and easy job. You can see now I've got this all built up and it's ready to come off the board, and I've left a gap here for the bottom of the rudder, and we've got a gap down here where the hinges will go, and the hinges I'm using are these Dubro small nylon hinges, really good for this kind of small model, and they are going to go, let's take that pin out, here, just where we've put in a little bit of extra balsa just to take that hinge, and I'll probably put it right up against that spar there, and another one right down against that spar there like that. I'll probably trim these off because often if you've got little bits of plastic sticking out the back, you can see that through the tissue and it doesn't look nice. But anyway, that's done for now. So I'm going to take it off the board, and then just stuck the pin in me, and then I can sand this nice and flat because the balsa, my 1/8 balsa, is slightly thicker than the balsa that comes in the kit. So there we go. Now I'm not going to cut this out and separate the rudder from the fin just yet. I'm going to sand it as a whole, I'm going to profile it as a whole, I'm going to get it so it fits nicely into the tailplane, and it's only at the last minute that I will start to think about separating it. So that should just fit in there. I think it's just needs a little bit of a sand. So I will get this cleaned up and ready to fit. Well, I've now got this tail assembly finished, and it's gone really well. It was quite a quick and easy build. Like I said earlier, it's a little bit heavier than I would have liked, but I think it'll be fine, I'm sure. And we can see what it looks like on the fuselage, and I really am excited by this build and how it's starting to take shape. You can see I've rounded off the front leading edge of the fin, and I've tapered the trailing edge of the rudder, but I've left the rudder attached to the fin, and I will probably leave that until I come to fit the servo and the control mechanism, not only for the rudder but also for the dethermalizer. And with the dethermalizer in mind, I may have to add a little bit of timber to the front here, which will act as a little bit of a guide for when it comes up, but I need to give that just a little bit of thought. But anyway, it's good to get this done, and now I'm really looking forward to starting to build the wings, and that's going to be the focus of the next video, getting these 40-inch wing, not 38-inch, 40-inch wings finished. So anyway, thanks very much for watching, and please come back, see how we get on in this build of a Keil Kraft Gypsy.